in case you encounter this and you're like, what are we doing? So let me get into sharing my screen too, so that we're all on the same page with that. And what I'll typically do is as I facilitate, I'll be basically guiding you along in certain sections. The first half an hour of what we're going to be doing is related to understanding who we are as a team and as a collective, with bringing everybody together. And then after that half an hour, we'll be getting into the day one canvas and kind of working through that process. Does anyone have any questions at this point before we get started? No? Okay. So let's go into a little bit of an overview on the team canvas that we have here. We do have a time zone converter in the upper right-hand side. So if ever you need that to figure out where everybody is, or if you are looking to have some perspective or to get together with people offline, this is a good way of kind of being able to see that really fast. There's nothing already put into that link. It's just basically there for a good measure. I think what I want to do first before we get started is start things off with kind of a vote on where we are in terms of getting ready, like how far we're going to, like if we feel that we're ready to do this dash thing, if we're not sure about it. And I'll summon everybody up here to kind of do that. Now, I haven't tried to vote with this particular section yet, so this is going to be a little bit of an experiment. So we're going to, if you've never done voting also in Miro, this is your first time. So this is probably a good introduction to it. So what we're going to do is just take a quick check with the team on where they are in terms of readiness. What you want to do is you want to vote on any of these particular emojis. If on the vote, the emojis are not available for voting, then you just basically vote on help, nope, not sure, ready, and let's go. Got it? So just one vote. When this is a kind of an example of how Mural handles voting, the whiteboarding tool that we're going to be using today. And this is all about ready. So one vote, go ahead and place it on an emoji of your choice. And if the emoji does not work, then go ahead and put it on the card below it. And to vote, you just click on either the emoji or the card. If you want to remove your vote, you can hold down your shift key and click on it again, and it'll take the vote off so you can replace it somewhere else. Usually there is a 10-second rule of voting. So if the votes don't kind of cascade or show up as being used, then what I'll tend to do is I'll probably cut the vote short and just to see where things are. Give about 20 seconds more for voting. Go ahead and vote on an emoji or a card to basically signal your readiness. Looks like we got everyone who wants to vote in. I'll end the voting session a little early and see where we ended up with this.
I didn't get any voting.
Oh, you didn't get a voting kind of engagement?
No.
That's weird. All right, we'll have to track that, Gia.
Miro, right? I'm on the Miro day one.
No, you're looking at the team canvas. So it should be the link that I shared in chat.
You're looking at the term. No, I just moved from my phone to my computer. That's why, okay. It's a team canvas. Let me just get into the team canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here I am.
Okay. So from the initial vote, it looks like the majority of people are kind of good to go. There's a couple of people that aren't sure, which is to be expected. Hopefully that'll kind of move to the right rather than to the left. But if it does move to the left, then you're definitely going to have to speak up and let me know so that you don't feel either lost or confused or frustrated. The next thing we're going to do is a team energy bar. And this was introduced by I think, Lisa Weinsberger before in terms of figuring out where people are in terms of their energy going into the session versus when they come out. The way to do this is if you use your mouse cursor, you want to basically put it anywhere in this white space here, and I'll summon everyone back to where I'm at. And you want to kind of put it somewhere on this energy bar where it makes sense. So you don't click, you just basically move your mouse over a part of the energy bar where your energy is right now, and then I'll go ahead and put that dot there. So Horse is not feeling too energetic, and Gia's way over there. She's like Joy is all the way over. So it looks like we're kind of right around here, I'd say, somewhere around here. And I think that would probably constitute about, say, let's do 80%. So we're at 80% right now in terms of energy, which is good, which means a few people may need to get some breakfast soon, or that they're, or depending on their part of the world, if they're not in the breakfast time, they'll need to get something else. So at least a good reference point. Now, if you're coming out of the call and you haven't done the, area here that corresponds to your persona as well as your superpower, do fill that in. That's a good point for me as a facilitator to reference. We're going to be starting off with personal goals over here on the left at number 1. So there's a number of people that have already put in what they would like to do for personal goals. If you haven't filled this part out yet, please do so now. And I'll give about maybe 2 minutes to kind of fill this out. Go ahead and put in any other particular personal goals that you'd like to achieve by doing this. If you've already done this, you don't need to put anything else or try to kind of stretch and figure out what other personal goals you can get. But if you have not done this part, go ahead and fill in your personal goals. If I don't see any movement after a minute, I will stop the timer and we'll move on to the next section, because we're going to do collectively vote on everything at the same time. I think everybody did put what they wanted to do. Actually, I'll reframe this. Let's say this. I'm going to bump it up to about 3 minutes, and let's do all 5 sections. So basically, look at all 5 sections: personal goals, common goals, rules and team rules and norms, values, and purpose, and fill in anything that in those sections that you want to, if you haven't done so already, and then we'll take it from there. So we'll kind of lump it all together rather than doing it piecemeal. If I don't see any card movement, I'll assume that everyone on the call has already put in their information. Now, and just in case, if people are wondering how to basically put in their 2 cents, you want to put your mouse over a card and double click on it to select it. And then once you do, you go ahead and put in what you want to for any of those particular sections, just in case you're new to Mural and you're not sure how to engage with the software. All you have to do is just double click on any gray card in one of the sections to type in something that you want to. I have to remind myself that not everyone knows Mural, even though I've been working with it for 3 years. By the way, if I go off camera for whatever reason, it only means that I am eating something, and I don't want to do what Alex had mentioned before about people feeling a little uncomfortable with things. So. Okay, it looks like we pretty much have put everything in there we need to. I'll go ahead and stop the timer and end that sucker. Let's move over to personal goals first. What I want to do is look for any duplicates. So take a look at all the cards that are in section 1. And if you see a duplicate that's the same, like explore and explore here would be a good example. Go ahead and make them the same color so that we can at least check them out. And if they are duplicates, then I can go ahead and eliminate one of them and change the color back to gray. Anyone on the call can do this. Go ahead and select 2 that are similar. If you, we're going to be moving to section. So if you want to go to common goals to look for duplicates there, you can, or in other sections. So yeah, learn, design, sprint, and learning to sprint, I think probably are the same. So I'll eliminate this one. Let's see, experiment with processes to progress and experiment. Explore and experiment, yeah. Probably experiment I'll take out because explore and experiment is kind of a combination of the two. Experiment with progress, process to progress is very similar. Yeah, explore over there. Kind of knock that one out too. Let's see, have some fun, have fun, same thing. Some just want some fun. Other people want to have a lot of fun. So we'll kind of scale it back and just do with fun.
And learn a lot. Lots of
Learn.
people want to learn. That's fantastic.
Yep, there's tons of learning here. Okay.
I love that.
Take it out here. Learn from legends. I'll actually keep the variations in there from like learning from that regard, just because they're a little bit specific. People and networking. Yeah, I would say networking probably would want to be in there as well. Let's see. Some fun, have fun with people. That's sim, so I'll make those gray again. Learn. Yeah, learn here probably needs to be reset. Learn design sprint, learn from legends, learn for kids. Yep. All of those are in the same boat, but we're gonna make them, we're gonna neutralize them so we don't have those. Processes, explore and experiment. I think they're the same, or they're same, but those. Observe how to facilitate, learn the methodology, explore different various, learn about the templates. All in the same boat. Learn design sprint. Yeah, they're all in the same boat. That's excellent, but they're probably could stand alone as separate voting ones. So I'm glad you pointed it out, but I'm gonna kind of put them all to gray. Kind of go there. Get to know interesting people. Yeah. So let me take some of these and bring them over to set over here and bring this over here. Oop. And this there, so that we're kind of left justifying all the cards where they are. Common goals down here. Let's see what people have put. Test dash together, rather test the dash process. Yep, there's two there. There are duplicates. Test dash, I think test dash process is a bit more specific. Dash together with Robert. Yeah. Oh, that. Let me move that out and I'll lock it. Hang on. Okay. Put those back to gray. Like I said, go ahead and move ahead if you want to 3 and 4 to kind of point out duplicates there while I'm kind of going through these. Learn from experience and sharing to share experiences. Yeah, I would say the one on the right probably is a bit more, they're similar. The one on the right I would probably favor. If I get stuck on any particular one where I'm not sure about it and I would need to get some ask the audience time, then I'll definitely call everyone's attention to something if I think it's a really close call. But most of the time, I'll just basically execute in this regard. Create something tangible, achieve something tangible. I'm going to combine those two and put create and achieve. Oop. And achieve something tangible, if I can spell tangible. And that one was just right out eliminated. Whoever did that one's like, no, I don't want that card. Okay. Okay. Let's go up to team rules and norms. See what kind of action we have going on there. Try to be on time. Be on time. I think try is probably good. It's encouraging rather than just authoritarian. Nothing wrong with being authoritarian. Just it's probably more of a suggestion, but you should try to be on time. That's for sure. Commitment to be there. Commitment to be at the session. Yep, those are duplicates. Help each other. Offer your help and time. Same thing, little different in terms of like being in the same space. So make that gray. Make these all gray. Oop. Yep. Ask questions, talk less, listen more, open-minded. Yep, probably all in the same space, but I would actually say probably they deserve to be in their own space. Listen more than speaking. Yep. And what is this one down here? I have to zoom in and see that. Try to understand / empathize. How about that? I'll separate that space. Try to emphasize with one another. Okay. Go down to values. Joy, fun, fun. I think joy could stand on its own. It did in the Inside Out.
Yes. My
Fun.
favorite avatar.
Fun, inclusiveness. Yep. Respect. Yep. Definitely. Probably. Fun and curiosity. Probably goes to curiosity. Collaboration. Yep. Collaborative and supportive environment. One speaks to the environment, the other one's just basically open-ended. I'll probably leave both. But yep. Let me go ahead and put everything gray. And drag these over. By the way, if you're looking for things to do, you can always do what I do and kind of move everything over so that everything is kind of in one space so that they're unscattered. But it's totally up to you if you want to engage and do it that way too. It's just an easier way of kind of looking at all the cards to be able to, when we go to voting, so you don't have to fish for it. Also, if you want to eliminate the redundant cards that are here, you can go ahead and do so as well, since we're no longer putting in any inputs. Just a matter of clicking and dragging, highlighting and removing them. And then that makes it easier for us to kind of look at everything. Another cool thing you can do in Mural is if you highlight everything, it'll give you a sub menu where you can actually put things in a grid. And sometimes that brings it past the dotted line, but you can go ahead and put that over and it automatically kind of brings everything together. Finally, go to purpose down here. And let's see if there's any duplicates here. But it didn't look like where people were looking there was, but let's just do a really quick check. Yeah, we'll just eliminate the blank ones. I'm gonna put a space in between create and something there. To learn about exciting methodologies and how to combine them in an efficient way, to learn how to use designs for that. Yes, very similar, but probably could stand on their own in terms of voting and kind of choosing between the two of them. So, yep, I agree. Oop, no, I don't want to switch a sketch. Just a quick test just to see if anyone is having issues with performance with Mural right now. If this board lags pretty bad or is having issues, a good way of kind of letting me know is just basically putting in chat, just type the word lag, LAG, and then I'll know how badly the performance is going with this whiteboard. The reason why I ask is that'll help me to determine for future whiteboards how involved I should be with these versus how scaled back, so that I'm kind of accommodating for all types of systems. Okay, so we've got everything kind of paired away and squared down. Thank you for doing that. What we're going to do is we're going to do a mass vote, so that we're not going to be going section to section and voting. I'm going to allocate 3 votes for each section. So 3 for personal goals, 3 for common goals, 3 for team new rules and norms, 3 for values, and 3 for purpose. So in total, you'll get 15 votes. You'll want to visit each section and pick your top 3 for each of the particular sections. And there's no time box to get this done. After we do the voting, we'll move things into the general section and in this space to kind of get an idea of where things are from everyone's perspective, and we'll do a short discussion and review that together. But for now, I'll go ahead and start the voting. You want, again, 3 votes for each section, starting with personal goals, then common goals, then team rules and norms, then values, and then finally on purpose. And I'll start that right now. Okay. So I go ahead and go for it. To vote, you basically click on a card to put your vote in. You shift click to remove it. No one will be able to see your cursor or what you're voting on. Even though I am streaming live, I still can't see what people are doing. And when the votes are pretty much all counted or all kind of put where they're supposed to be, we'll get out of voting, and then we'll review what's been done, what people have voted on for each section. And again, I will go off video and off microphone just for a little bit. And to answer the question of whether or not if you're observing, if you want to get involved, you can vote for these as well. So observers can basically like pick and choose when they want to get in.
We vote on the purpose too, right? Yes.
Yes. So you vote for all 5 sections: personal goals, common goals, team rules and norms, values, and purpose.
Yeah.
Three votes for each section, please.
Desculpa, quis perguntar uma coisa.
Yeah, sir, I would give commentary, but I'm eating breakfast. Otherwise, I would do a play-by-play, but for now, I'll leave it alone, just see where the votes go. All right, we just have a few votes left. Our anonymous pig is making their final vote, and there we go. All right, let's go ahead and end the voting session. Let's see the heat map that's been generated by the votes and bring those together. So the voting results, kind of a blend of everything. Let's go ahead and I think that what we're seeing right off the bat is that the joy of exploration and to test shorter version of the design sprint, but still be able to achieve sound outcomes of the 2 cards across everything that seem to be the most prominent. What I'll do is on my end, I will zoom into each section and we'll kind of go into each one. So if we look at some of the top cards here, there is learning the methodology of the dash sprint and meet other like-minded people and passionate professionals. There's also to be learned from a great facilitator. Well, you definitely came to the wrong place if you're looking for that, because I pale in comparison to other people, but I'll give it my best shot. And there's a bunch of other 3s like observe how to facilitate, explore various design methodologies, experiment with process to progress. Now, when putting all of these particular personal goals here, normally in other exercises, you kind of have a median. Usually with this, you want to have more inclusion than others. So I'm going to put the first 2 cards over here in personal goals and expand those out to 3x5s. So a little bit more readable. And I'll give them a slightly different color and border them so that we know those were the top voted ones. And then for the rest over here, I'm going to keep them together. I'll select them. I believe I got everything. Yep. Put them all into a row. Also make them 3x5 so a little easier to see. And that's what's looking like our personal goal. So the top ones are to meet other like-minded passionate professionals and to learn the methodology of what this dash sprint is all about. Then there's some supplemental ones I just went over. So those are all our personal goals here, which sound fantastic. Let's go down to common goals. And we have a couple that are standouts. The first is to learn new techniques and styles of DS and to be inspired, and then to dash together with Robert, you too kind. But I hate to say this to you, but it's not all a giant picnic, but I'll do my best. And then we had another one with get assumptions validated through a pretotype. So, and then learn together and create a network. So all good. Let me take the top 2 or top 3 here and do the same thing. Bring them over to common goals here. Make them in a row. And all I'm essentially doing with this, the why I'm doing this is that this is going to be a good reference point for us to kind of look back or to reference in terms of like why we're getting together in the first place. The team canvas is an excellent way of kind of getting consensus on all these different dimensions of us working together collaboratively. So I'll copy these over too. Oh, did I copy them and just go off? Hang on. Did I copy too many? Yeah, I did. Okay. Okay, we'll bring those over. Let's move over to team rules and norms, which is always an interesting one for me. By the way, it looks like there's 7 votes that were hit on by something. Maybe it was something that was run over there. So that your vote may not have kind of counted in this section, but we'll take for what it's worth what votes are here. So we have to re-vote. But there's a number of them that are kind of on the same space. So I'll take those and bring them over here. It could be that something was grouped and caught the votes accidentally. So that's on me. So hopefully I'll try to get it better. Oh, nope. I think Mural's starting to flake out a little bit. Hang on a second. Let's try this once again. I'll hit copy 3 times to see if it actually gets into there. Right. Row, go 3x5. So it looks like for team rules and norms is to provide feedback and be open to receive it. Don't assume you understand, clarify and confirm your understanding. a learning and curious mindset, and balanced seriousness and fun. Definitely on the first two, do speak up if you need clarification on what we're doing, especially if you're new to this. I'd rather you be clear on what we're doing and why we're doing it than kind of sit where you are and go, what are we doing? So do speak up. And seriousness and fun and learning and curious mindset, I'm always pro about. So I'm right there with you. In terms of values, there are two that stood out for sure. I'll bring these over to values and I'll go over them there. Joy of exploration and to help each other to be the best versions of ourselves. I agree. Bring these over here. Oh, that's not the color I wanted. There we go. And then we had a bunch of threes, which were here. And while I'm doing this, if you'd like, you can give some commentary around some of the results of these. If there's anything particular that you're noticing about the cards, any patterns, or just the fact that some of them are here, how they basically reflect us as a group, you're more than welcome to speak up. You don't have to wait for me to kind of assemble everything. I will say that there's a collaboration theme with values that is pervasive throughout the cards that were voted, but definitely a learning environment and to help each other is another one that comes in. And then for purpose, there's to test shorter sprints. Wait a minute, hang on. Got the votes in there. To test a shorter version of the design sprint, but still be able to achieve the same outcomes. That's my hope as well by doing this. I'll put that as the kind of like overarching purpose there, since that one was the voted the most. I'll put that there. And then the other ones that were close is to learn, let's see, let me get the vote out of the way so I can see, is to break down the sprint and learn how to rebuild it in a form that suits the challenge at hand. That's the whole purpose of doing the dash. So that was essentially why I went down the path I did, because I started seeing patterns in the process between prototyping and design sprints that seemed to kind of come together and take the best of both worlds and see if they work. So I'll also put that there, but I'll put it as a slightly secondary purpose and change the color. And that pretty much rounds out the team canvas part of it. So it'll take a few minutes just to put some commentary around anything you see here, anything you'd like to kind of point out that either you voted on or that you're seeing through all the different pieces here. And to come off mic, if you want to make any commentary, just come off mic and then speak up and let us know what your thoughts are. I'm actually thinking about somebody's superpower about connecting the dots with Manisha. So if you were to connect the dots with some of these things here, what are some of the things you're seeing? Or you don't have to say anything, that's fine. Anyone else want to make any comments on the team canvas at all?
I'd like to make 2 points. One is that I feel personally aligned with the team, this expression of exploration and collaboration, inclusiveness as higher goals. I feel very comfortable with that. The second thing is about changing the design sprint. You know, we've gone from the design sprint that was in the book to design sprint 2.0 to remote, and now another form of design sprint. Could it be that each new design sprint has its own format, or would you say, or would anybody say that no, we should stick to existing patterns?
It depends on who you talk to. If you talk to Steph Cruchon of Design Sprint Ltd, he believes that the 5-day sprint is something that shouldn't be fooled with. All the way to Lee Duncan, who is doing something apparently week 4 with a new type of sprint that he's coming out with as well. He and I kind of swim the same boat in that we both kind of look at the process as malleable and it should be breakable, and he should piece it, like break it apart. but it just, to your point, it just depends on the disposition of the individual and what makes sense to do so. For me, I'm trying to optimize for outcomes and for what people are looking to do. So my attempt with the dash is to kind of look at this from that perspective. Can we take what the best ideas of pretotyping and then design sprints and kind of mix them into a recipe that makes sense? Any other comments before we move on?
Robert, not a comment, but a question. Could you say more about pretotyping? I'm not very familiar with the idea.
Okay. So if you want to learn about pretotyping, I can provide some links in the canvas that we're going to be going to in a little bit. But pretotyping is from a person named Alberto Savoia, Savioia, and he's one of the former innovation engineers at Google. His book is called The Right It, and his position is that you can use his technique called pretotyping or pretend prototyping to validate the desirability of your idea in the market before you even build it. So he goes through a process that if we choose to do pretotyping with this group or both, that I'll kind of showcase, where you have an idea, you form a hypothesis around that idea, you create a very short but precise experiment to test the validity of your idea with the intended market. And then that experiment is iterated on several times over the course of 24 to 48 hours to see what the market thinks of it. So that in essence can provide the rationale that either there's something to your idea or there isn't. And you have to either go back to the drawing board or reframe how you engage it. But it's an interesting way of testing ideas before you even go through the process of a design sprint or lean startup or some other kind of engagement model. Does that make sense?
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
But on the for anyone, everyone else, all you have to do is look up Alberto Savoia, and I think it's albertosavoia.com. And that pretty much has everything you need, including the original 40-minute lecture he gave at Stanford on the topic, and the YouTube links to some of his instructional videos. And if all goes well, he'll be coming on a Q&A session either on Thursday or Friday this week and talking with me or me and Sandy Lamb about pretotyping. So you can ask him directly if you want. But hopefully that'll come to fruition. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Yeah, he offered, so we'll see. Anything else? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll jump right into the day one. And like I said before, we're going to take a break at the top of the hour. So depending on where we are in the process, I'll pause. And around 7:55, or sorry, at 55 or at the top of the hour, I'll take a 10-minute break so that you can kind of disengage and do what you need to do and come back. And we'll see how far we get on day one. So let me go ahead and share the link. I'll put that into chat. We'll give people about 30 seconds to a minute to come on over. And if you're in the right spot, you should see GVDS number 25, the dash day one. And what you can do is in the transition from the team canvas to this canvas, there's a little place up here that says team avatars. If you see yours represented here, then you're good to go. If you don't see yours, then you probably want to can copy off of your team canvas and then bring it over to this side of the fence. We'll be using those avatars in a exercise later on this canvas. And if you need help bringing something over, then you can basically let me know. Will, is that I think is that you that your picture is not coming over? Because if it is, I can help out with it. Sometimes the pictures don't go as planned, but you can tell me. You can also say in chat if there's an avatar you're trying to bring over that isn't rendering when you try to do so, and I can go ahead and assist. But just put that in chat. I'll start off on the left with team roles, and I'll bring everybody over to where I'm at. And also, if you can't get to the canvas for whatever reason, put that in chat too, so that I can help you out on the side. So the team roles don't need to be worked out right away. This is just basically there as a way of anytime between now and the end of our session for you to think about what kind of engagement you want to have on the team and what you want to be responsible for. So don't feel like you have to answer this right away. This is just basically to document where you think you want to, how you want to engage the week. So, and we'll probably, if we have time towards the end of the hour, we'll kind of look at this. Same thing with preferred tools and methods. Again, this is just basically a spot to put down what we would prefer to do in terms of whiteboarding, design, VoIP, and project management. They're not necessarily something we needed to figure out right away. I'd rather spend our time on the actual process and go from there. So speaking of process, let's get into this. Well, let's talk about what you would love to do this week. I would suggest getting a little selfish, but this is the first part of the dash. So what would you love to do, have a solution for a fix for that you are currently experiencing or that you think would be really altruistic to do? You can cover anything related to career, health, maybe a job to be done, a process, but go ahead and put this here. So I'll give about 3 minutes for this. Just think of something that you would love to spend the week on to try to dash against. And this can be something that personally motivates you or something that you're currently dealing with, all the way to something that maybe that you saw as part of the GVDS in terms of a challenge, but putting that there as a card would be a good first step. So go ahead, and all you have to do that is just double click on any card that's here. And you can put it in the form of a how might we, you can put it in the form of just a simple statement. Whatever you would like to do is totally up to you, but just go ahead and put in there some ideas that you have that you would love to explore this week. Okay. And again, we'll have 2 minutes and 20 seconds. If we need more time, we can go ahead and add it in. It's not a big deal to do so. Also for observers, this is, ooh, I'm echoing. So if you're an observer here and you're just kind of seeing what's going on, this is also a part where you can engage. So if you want to put in something that's on your mind that you like the team to consider, if you're an observer, go ahead and put that in this space as well. I'm going to add a couple more minutes. It looks like we got some fairly decent activity. So I kind of let that breathe a little bit and give it some room. I'll add a couple more over here, but once these are done, then I think that's good. Should be good enough cards to go with. So once those cards are all filled up, we'll stop from there.
We have a very creative group. It's nice to observe.
Yep. Okay, let's wrap up those last few notes. And while that's happening, I'll explain what's the next step to this. So you've noticed there's probably a bunch of tan cards here that say group name right below here. What you're going to do is start looking at the cards up above, and you're going to drag down cards that are very similar and kind of put them under the same group name and give that group name a name. So hypothetically, let's say if these two cards are basically the same, then you're going to take them and drag them down to here, and then basically change the group name to something that's similar to it. So it could be cookies. But that's a way of kind of doing something we call affinity diagramming. So this will be what you want to do in this section down here. Go ahead and look over the cards and then click and drag where it seems to make sense. And organize the cards in a fashion that you feel is appropriate. Now, since these ideas can be wide and varied, and they may not necessarily have like a really specific category they fall under, you can be very general. They can be about health, they can be about professionalism, or career, whatever you'd like. But just go ahead and see if there's any commonality between the two, and start kind of lumping them together in the same space. And if there are a bunch of individual cards that don't have a home, that is totally fine. We're just going to take about a couple of minutes to see where this lands us in terms of organizing our different activities or ideas and putting them in that space down below. So again, drag down cards in this particular section down here under group name, start organizing them in a fashion that seems intuitive to you. And then as we get closer to kind of seeing how everything kind of works itself out with organization, then we'll start a little bit of a voting to pare them down a bit. And don't worry about covering up the ice cream. I'll move the ice cream if we need to. Make that a little bit smaller. Oops. Okay, it looks like we're nearly done. Yeah, you're right. Americo basically pointed out that usually with affinity diagramming is where lag starts to introduce, and I've noticed that as well.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Reason why interrupting video can help.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and yeah, Christine says lag. Yes. Yes, indeed. That is something that Mural is struggling with. Their rendering engine is addressing that, but for everyone else that doesn't have the rendering engine, it could be a problem. Let's look for duplicates really fast, see if there are any cards that are very similar that we want to consider kind of removing or kind of earmarking as very close to one another. This is a good way of also being able to read the cards and seeing what other people have kind of written down before we go to a vote. Do some more sports, encourage people to be healthier, encourage people to have a healthier and sport. Yeah. Yeah, that's close. I would say the one at the very top could stand alone. But let's have a little bit of fun with this. So I'm looking at the pink side over on healthy and sports, and where Americo's kind of pointing out here in the pink. I'm going to kind of summon everyone in the same space. What I want you to do is put your mouse over which card you think should stay. So put your mouse over top how might we encourage people to have, and that one if you want to stay, or how might we encourage people to be healthier in terms of which card do you think is best representative between both of those. And it looks like that top one is going to make the cake. So we're going to take that one out. Apologies for some of the person that put that in there. I mean, no offense. It was a great suggestion. It's just that it was duplicated. So I'll make this gray. And we have a couple over there. Let's bring this up a bit so that's here. And it looks like this card says, how to identify business challenges and get switched on to opportunities to develop business sense and hunch for business opportunities. Yeah, let's do another crowd vote for this one. So put your mouse over which one you think should stay between how to identify business challenges and get switched to opportunities to develop business sense. They're the other ones on the left. And it looks kind of both. So I think between the votes, we're going to keep both of them. I think there's an even keel between the two. So we'll keep both of those there. Just keep in mind that they're pretty close when it comes to voting. We got a couple of orange ones here. How might we get design thinking and design sprints to be taught in school? And how might we create a modified version of DS for secondary school results with working prototype? I think they're different enough so that they're in the same space, but I wouldn't necessarily do a crowd vote on those. So I'm going to kind of, it's good that you pointed those out. I'm going to put them back in the gray just because they could stand to be in the same space. Okay, so with this, now that we've organized everything through affinity diagramming, and it looks like we have like one kind of isolated one up here. I'm just going to put that down there. We are going to vote on the individual cards, not the categories this time. So the categories are a good way to frame all of the different cards that are here. But what we're going to do is look at these particular options, all these different ideas and possibilities we can go. And I want you to vote on your top three. So 3 particular ideas that you think out of everything here would be really interesting to do for the dash. And we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and start a voting session. Everyone will have 3 votes to go by. And this is going to be for the dash idea. And let's see where this goes. So again, vote on the gray cards, not on the gold digital card categories. You can vote on anything that you like. It's going to be anonymous. Nobody will be able to see what you're doing. If we do not have a kind of a clear majority in terms of which direction we should go in, then we'll bump the votes up a bit, but 3 votes should be enough with everyone giving everyone here. And so far, the penguin is the first to cross the finish line. If you want a commentary, Yasser. So the penguin's out the vote, knows exactly what they want. Same with the bee. Manisha and Laura and the fish are all vying for third. Let's see who kind of gets in their vote. And now Gia's right there. So a 4-way tie, and it's the penguin that comes across first, followed closely by the bee. And then we'll wait for the other votes to come in and see what kind of transpires. And again, if you are an observer for this particular activity, you can go ahead and put in your vote if you choose to do so. Okay, looks like we just have a couple votes left. Once those go in, we'll basically tally the votes and see where things go. Oh, the cat's still voting. Hang on, we got a cat sighting. We got to wait until that cat votes. Okay, cat has voted. Going once in the votes, going twice, and let's see how everything ended up. So, so we had 2 that basically had 3 votes, but one of them looks like somebody was really voting in favor of where it could go. So there's a bit of stacking on that, which is fine. But the one that seemed to kind of come across the most was how might we get design thinking and design sprints to be taught in school? So I think we go into there. Out of everything that was here, under education is where this team seems to be kind of going in that direction. So I'll take that. And I'll go ahead and move it up to.
And also there is one similar solution next to the school. So I would consider it 4 votes because
help teams innovate better together. Yeah.
Yep. So
this one. Yeah. See, they're very similar. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So it's a kind of validation of the same one. Okay.
Wait. Do you mean how might we get design thinking, design sprints to be taught in school, and how might we help teams innovate better together?
No, I mean is how might we get design thinking and design sprints to be taught in school, and how might we create a modified version of design sprint for school?
Yeah.
To me, it's very, very similar.
I would say there's a slight nuance because the other one is really specific in terms of how might we get a modified version adapted, and the other one is more general. Like how might we just get design thinking to be taught in schools? So it's more general, like how could we get schools more into that? The other one is how could we get more design sprint and adapted, more specific.
Okay. I was the one voting for the specific one, and I'm okay to move my vote to the generic one.
No, it's fine. I think we're basically going to be the observers. I just noticed that Stone Cold Steve Austin look with the observer's avatar. I think for what the purposes of what we're doing, the general one about design thinking, design sprints to be taught in school is a good one to start with. And at this point, I'll call the break. So it's 5 minutes after the hour. If anyone needs, let's do a show of hands. Does anyone at this point need a break to kind of like go to the bathroom or to get a drink or anything? If you do, go ahead in Zoom. There's an ability to do that. There should be something that allows you to give some sort of thumbs up or an emoji. Okay, so we got one. That's good enough. So anyone else? Got 2. We got 3. Okay, 10 minutes. We'll basically meet at 15 minutes at the hour. So my time is 8:15. So 15 minutes where you are. And then we'll get back to starting with step 1. Okay. And in the meantime, if you are not taking a break and want to stick around like I am, you can notice that we have now 3 cats in the team avatar section. And it looks like the observer's avatar is Stone Cold Steve Austin, which is pretty daunting. And also, if you want to, in these 10 minutes, you can put down which team role you want to have if you already know in advance. But it's totally up to you if you want to do that. Or you can basically look at the rest of the dash that we're planning on doing today and seeing where this is going. I will say that if we run out of time and are not able to do everything by the end of this hour, we'll basically do what we can and then continue on in day 2 with some of the activities here, because we can bridge right into what we're going to do. But this should fall fairly quickly. Storytelling, the part 2 may be a little bit, may take a little bit more involved. But the rest of it is pretty free flowing from there. And if we need more time, we can also do it too. So we'll meet at 15 after the hour, and I'm going to go get up and go get T2. So I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Everybody come around and wake up when you're ready. We're going to go straight into what I would probably term as storytelling, which is a little bit different than problem framing, and I'll explain why. So for this first part here, for storytelling, we decided that we're going to tackle how to get design thinking and design sprints to be taught in school. So we're going to think of the audiences that are involved with this rather than affected, or I'm going to change the wording. So we're going to go into, I think I have to unlock this to actually be able to get into it. So involved with rather than by. So when we think about how might we get design thinking and design sprints to be taught in school, let's think of the audience. Like what kind of audiences could be involved with this endeavor? Go ahead and put your thoughts in these gray boxes here in terms of who the audiences should be or that we could potentially take on. I would assume with design thinking and design sprints, it could be facilitators, instructors, people that are in the business of doing so. If you're talking about school, they can be principals, educators, parents, all sorts of different ones. If you have a particular take or a particular group, then go ahead and put that in there as well. Now, as you see the cards start to populate in this section, if you see something like tutors or parents or school authority or something in that regard, if you happen to know a school principal, for example, down here in your network, you should probably indicate who that person is. If, for example, you can give their first name and last name initial, and basically indicate who it is that the card is. So for example, if I know a teacher, mine would be Miss Douglas, but in my particular card, I'm going to put Robert so that you know the origin of who the connection is. And the reason why your network part is important is that if we do decide to do prototyping, we have somebody that we can reach out to get their opinion on what we've done and to react to it. Or if we do pretotyping, we have a particular type of audience that we try to cater to that reflect the network that we have. So again, use the audience as a way of kind of saying, okay, for primary school students, do I know a primary school student? And if you do, you write down the first person last name or just basically who it is, and then put your name in parentheses so that we know where the origin is of the resource or the person that we're talking about. Once you think you've contributed to this section about audience, and you can't think of any other audiences or can't think of anybody else in your network, you can go ahead and move ahead to the next section down below, which is current state and pain points. So you have a general idea of the audience that we're talking about up above. what you want to do with this section is take an audience type. We haven't voted yet, but you can go ahead and take an audience type from up above and say, how is the audience currently, and then it's saying dealing with this. Let's get specific. Since our particular challenge, whoa, hang on there, Muriel. I didn't go that far. Bring this back down. Challenge down here.
Can I have a question?
Go for it.
Are we only talking about schools, or are we also talking about universities and colleges?
So schools can mean universities, colleges, or other things. That should probably be reflected in the audiences that you're thinking about. And then when we go to voting, we'll be able to kind of narrow that down a bit.
Okay.
So I may be putting the cart before the horse in terms of the current state. But what I'd like to do is pre-populate that section a bit so I can see where some people are kind of headed in terms of their thinking of the audience versus what they're doing. So the current state of how is this audience currently dealing with this? Let's get more specific. It says, how is this audience currently getting design thinking and design sprints to be taught in school? I know that's all for the misspelling, but hang on. How is this audience currently getting design thinking and design sprints to be taught in school, if they are? Or how are they pushing the envelope a bit? And when you refer to this audience, you want to be able to refer to them and specifically. So when you're answering this question, hang on a minute. Is that attached to that thing? Yeah, it is. So we answer this question, make sure that you put in the subject matter or the audience that you're thinking about. So when you say audience, just don't put they are doing this or they are doing this or this person is doing that. Be specific around teachers or parents or educators or some group that was mentioned in the audience above and kind of putting it in that current state. But that's only after you've moved on from the audience section. So if you're still working in audience, please feel free to do so. You don't have to move down to state yet. That's only when you're personally ready to do so. But once you are, go ahead and go down to current state and look back at audience and say, okay, which of these audiences are currently dealing, how are they currently, how are they currently getting design thinking and design sprints to be taught in school? What advancements or what kinds of things they're aware of that they're doing? Now on the pain points, this is supposed to be a macro of all the things that are being said in current state. So the question to ask is, what's the underlying motivation for doing this by this audience? I'll actually clarify that and put by this audience. Why are they doing the actions that are currently being talked about in current state? Why are they kind of engaging in that way? You know, what's the particular pain point that you feel from your perspective that this audience is doing what they're doing? And for reference, we'll be holding a vote after we kind of fill in those two particular sections before we go to how might we.
Robert, sorry, I'm trying to duplicate the card and somehow it's not letting me. It wasn't letting me write, and when I tried to duplicate, it was.
Try refreshing the page or refreshing your browser, and that should probably do it. Okay, if you're currently working on a card, go ahead and stop, finish up what you're doing, and then click somewhere off the side to basically finish up your work. I'm going to go ahead and clean up things a little bit. It's weird. Okay. Just gonna move things around a little bit. Okay. What we're going to do here is we're going to vote on, we're going to give, again, we're going to do some macro voting like we did before, just in the interest of time. So look at audience. Actually, yeah, we'll look at audience first up at the very top in step 1. Kind of look things over. Really quick, if you see like a couple of duplicates, then you can go ahead and highlight those. And then we can kind of remove those if there are too many of the same one. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That one is a duplicate there. From the parents, I'm wondering what Anila means. Is that another way of saying parents, or is it a particular type of parent for the person that did that card?
Yeah, that's in the wrong place. It should be under the network.
Oh, got it. Okay. Let me put that down there then. Oops. Looking over the other ones to sign. Yeah, the design thinking facilitators and practitioners, I think they're the one's more specific, the other one's a little bit more broad. Is there a difference between the school and academic teachers? I don't know. Let's I'm going to eliminate teachers from other subjects, or just basically make that gray out of the equation. So let's do government accredited government officials. It's kind of in the same space, but I would imagine they could probably coexist for voting. Practitioners and facilitators, I'm also going to keep in the same space. They're close, but I would probably err on the side of keeping them both in. Dedupe. Bring this up and over. School principal and school authority. School authority could be like a it could be a teacher, like a parent, like administrative, like broad, rather than just from one specific person. I'll make that gray, but that's a good thing to point out. And let's do a crowd vote between academic teachers and school teachers. Which of those cards do you think should stay? Put your mouse over top of the one that you think should stay between school teachers and academic teachers. Kind of have a little bit of leaning towards school teachers. So no offense to the academic teachers, we're going to put them in detention, and we're going to keep school teachers and have them play in the recess area.
Yeah,
Right.
I just put them there because I believe they have 2 different target groups. So it's older audience for the academic teachers, and they are trying to prepare students for market, for getting a job. And for schools, it's more about showing kids some fun during the learning process. So I thought it's going to be 2 different target groups for school teachers and for academic teachers.
So would academic teachers be something like university level?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's clarify that. I think that's what used that. Let's like say university teachers.
Yeah.
All right. Got it. Thanks for clarifying that, Alex.
Sure.
I'll spare the duplicates on the current state and pain points. I think there's enough there to go by. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take your network, and I'm going to move that one actually, so it's a little bit out of the way. This is going to be a reference point for us later. Doesn't necessarily, we don't need to vote on who we know, who's better and who isn't. But I'll move all of this up here. So we're kind of looking in the same space. And then this time, what we're going to do is we're going to give, instead of 3 votes, I think, well, no, let's do 3 votes for each section. So 3 for audience, 3 for current state, and 3 for pain points. And let's see how those votes fit out so we can kind of frame both an audience, the state, and pain points, and we'll do some analysis from there. So everyone will get 9 votes in total. And we're going to be voting on the audience as well as the state. Go ahead and put those 9 votes where you like.
Robert, question here: if after the votes we figure out that the pain points is a teacher pain point, whereas the experience is a parent experience, if all the 3 sections give us different stakeholders, then how is that managed? Or should we do it stepwise, where we say, we identify the pain point? If that is for teachers, we only vote for all the points around teachers in section 3. So how does it generally work?
So depending on the pattern that exists between the 3 in terms of the voting will give us some insights into how we see the macro of the problem, or how fractal it is when it comes to design thinking and design sprints to be taught in schools. Obviously, there's a lot of moving components and a lot of moving parts. But what I want to know through this exercise is, do we see the application of design thinking and design sprints differently than we do the actual overall audience? Because it could mean that our emphasis is with multiple audiences rather than just one type. In previous exercises, I tried doing them bit by bit, and it kind of restricted how we looked at the current state. And I'm trying to keep it open-ended so that if we see a pattern that naturally evolves, we'll move in that direction. If we see something that's in conflict, then we just have a little bit of a discussion to clarify what that conflict is and how that manifests itself into the sections that we're going to be going into.
Got it.
Plus, we aren't necessarily going to be picking on one state or one pain point. We're going to be taking several into part 2, where we're going to be building our own narrative around how we see the current situation or the problem.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, to answer your question, it's open-ended for a purpose.
Okay.
It's a messy middle.
Okay, so now we vote then on the audience, the current state, and the pain point.
Yep, 3 votes each on any cards you like, but not on the how might we that's over here on the left. That's just for reference.
It's not letting me. It's not letting. It's not letting me remove my vote.
Try refreshing your browser again, Gia. It'll reset your vote count.
Yeah. I want to remove a vote that I accidentally put, and when I tried to remove it, it added another one. And I'm like, no, don't make it worse.
And you're holding down your shift key, correct?
You are holding your shift key, Giselle?
Yep. It's my lovely Mac. Sometimes it goes crazy.
All right.
Yeah, I'd say try refreshing your browser to see if that works.
It doesn't.
I did the same blunder, and shift is working. So if you press the shift key and press again, the vote decreases, but the refresh is not working.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I did it.
You also might want to try going in. Well, it might be a little bit more difficult because you have an actual account on the workspace to come in as an anonymous animal. I think it'll identify you through cookies that you're who you are. You can't disguise yourself. Looks like we have a few more votes that are coming in. And Nikhil, how far along are you in voting? And sometimes Muriel may give me an inaccurate vote count, but let me know if you're still taking your time.
Robert, sorry, this was for me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on the second section. Will be done in 5 seconds.
Okay, no rush. I just want to make sure. So for reference, sometimes when you have a lot of people voting in the same mural kind of vote, like you have 16 or more, there's sometimes mural will get the vote count slightly inaccurately. Like some people have negative votes, other people's, their votes will have been submitted, but it doesn't keep the count up thing. So it happens occasionally. That's why I reached out to Nikhil to make sure that was the case. All right, let's see how everything kind of played out for us. I'll get out of this and go into the sections themselves. So on the storytelling side of things for the audience, it looks like we're looking at university students and school teachers would be the top two. I'm going to just border those. Then we have some secondary ones. I'll also color those so that they're coming out a little bit. Ink, and I'll summon everyone so that they're kind of looking at what I'm doing. Then we have a bunch of fours here: parents, secondary school students, design sprints, practitioners. We'll kind of keep those in mind. But I think the two top ones that we're looking at are university students and school teachers. And then we go down to current state, since we're kind of in two different arenas. Let's see how the current state vetted out. It looks like here, the one that was top voted was school authority. Design sprints does not seem to be on their agenda. Then the other ones have teachers have an idea of design thinking. They might look at it online.
Robert, I think it's have no idea of design thinking. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I read that incorrectly?
So have no idea about design.
Have no idea of design thinking. They might look at, so they have, okay, got it. My fault. I apologize. And then there's a couple of them where there aren't, or teachers not sure they know about design thinking. So it would seem that in the current state, we're kind of leaning more towards teachers. The 5s and the 4s seem to kind of emphasize that. So I'm going to kind of put all of this here and just border it. And then the 6 and the 5, I'll highlight in tan. Then up here, I'll do the same. I forgot to put the 4s in here and just put borders on those. Okay. Right, we'll move down to pain points. The pain points, interestingly enough, the parents suddenly show up and it goes anxiety on misalignment between what is taught and the future of work. And then we have 3 4s. Teachers not know a way to teach. There is no guidance to do design thinking. Students lack meaningful interaction during remote thinking and develops mindset. So what's interesting here is that if you see the progression, we start out with, okay, it deals with university students and school teachers. So kind of the relationship between the two in terms of the audience. But in the current state, we are looking at how teachers and authority basically look at the situation and how they're currently dealing with it. And maybe that's the way the question is worded. But then the pain points, they're spread out over multiple groups, with parents taking the top spot, which would lend one to think that this particular problem or challenge that we're setting ourselves up for causes pain for a lot of different people that are involved with the process. So to Nikhil's point, it doesn't necessarily point to one group, but on the pain side of things, it's definitely looking like it has multiple engagement points for pain, or at least like that where it's motivating them to do something about it. So teachers dominate the current state. School teachers and students, and the relationship there is the audience that are involved with what we're talking about. But the real pain is the focus of the pain, as we see it as a group, is the parents and how they're kind of they're sensing that misalignment. So interesting in terms of the dynamics. So I'm going to go, so give me just a couple of minutes, actually 1 minute, 60 seconds. I'm going to kind of arrange these in a different fashion for the how might we section, and I can kind of explain how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it. So what we realized by doing problem framing in some other global virtual design sprint activities was that instead of focusing on one group, it was better to kind of be more general to help reframe the engagement on the problem side. Since the problem can be fractal or deal with multiple dimensions, it was better to be non-specific going forward. So I'll explain how that kind of works to our favor and how might we. So if I kind of stack things out, on the audience side, we have school teachers and university students at the top, and then there's secondary ones that kind of fill in the space, right? Same thing with this. We have 2 here that are in this space. And where is my, well, that's really weird. There we go.
Yeah.
I didn't have a secondary, for some reason I didn't have a secondary, I didn't have my submenu pop up. And, whoa. Okay. So this is a point where I have to refresh my browser. So hang on 1 second.
Oh.
Thank you, whoever did that.
Welcome.
And okay. Sorry for the delay. Normally Mural works like a charm, but right now I think it's chugging a bit. Okay, do the magic copy several times. Or let's do, yeah. Wow. Okay, it is severely lagging. Not just me. Okay. So bring this down here. And I do not want to take a call from Nashville, Tennessee. Almost done. Okay, what I've done in the past minute or so that you've been patiently waiting is, beyond struggling with Mural's interface, is to create a sort of a narrative around how we would build out how might we questions. So get this one done, put this over here, call this one pain. So this is how it works. On the left-hand side is a reference point on how to do a how might we question. So if you look over here on the left for the ice cream examples, these are all different ways of creating how might we questions that will elicit some ideas or some thoughts. So for example, in terms of writing a how might we question for ice cream, amping up the good is an example of being in the highest positive state, where how might we make an ice cream parlor the perfect first date venue? How might we make the tandem of ice cream cones, all the way to basically taking it to an extreme? How might we make a morning ice cream experience? I don't know why you would do that, but that's just basically like an example of a how might we. So you're going to be writing these how might we questions to explore possibilities without jumping to conclusions. And what I've done over here on the right is indicate our top audiences that we've seen, the current states that they're dealing with, how that seems to be teacher oriented, and then the pain points that each of these particular groups have. What I'd like you to do is double click on a card to ask a question that would address one of these top audiences, top states, as well as the pain. It doesn't have to try to fit it in all into one how might we, but just take a slice of it and double click on a card and ask a how might we question that could be framed on the left in terms of how it's asked. And first address the audience in terms of what you would basically ask and give it a shot. There's no real perfect way of writing a how might we. This is just your particular way of trying to ask a question that can explore some interesting ideas in the next section. So go ahead and give it a shot. For reference, on the left is a way to write the how might we. On the right are basically a tally of what we've just done with our audience, our state, and the pain points that we've perceived by the different audiences that are part of this. Just go ahead and write a how might we that would address some dimension of that. And then from there, we'll start to narrow things down a bit. Because in the next section, we're going to be using the palette of the audience, state, and pain points to create our own narrative and around how we kind of see ourselves moving forward into ideation. And then we'll probably call a stopping point at that point, because we'll be at the top of the hour. Once you're kind of done with the how might we section, the can we section below it is to basically voice some doubts you have about what we are attempting to do with the declared challenge of design thinking and design sprints in schools. What are some particular doubts that you would have at the top of your head around this effort, like some things that could stop us, or that where reality could smack us in the face about something. This is a place where you can kind of put on your pessimistic hat and put in your particular point of view on doubts or restrictions or hurdles that we need to kind of that we'll need to address at some point while doing this. Once all the cards are filled into the how might we, please don't create any new ones. Just only use the ones that are up there. And if you're in waiting mode, waiting for things to kind of get done, you can jump ahead and look for duplicates in the how might we section and just go ahead and color those so I can address them ahead in advance. But that's only if you're not engaged with the can we exercise and are looking to basically get ready to vote. For reference, for people that have to leave at the top of the hour, we'll basically do a quick kind of photo with everyone, and we will have a theme that goes along with that, so that we can at least capture everyone while we're on the call before you have to go. I agree with the yellow one. Yep. I think I would probably take out this one. And we can have a quick kind of like group vote on the two yellows. Yeah, I think that one that was just highlighted. Yeah, we'll do kind of a mass group vote, see where those kinds of things work themselves out. Okay, we're wrapping up the can we's. Give about 60 seconds left for everything, and then we'll move ahead.
Oh, but can we have more sticky notes at the can we area?
No.
Or no? Right.
No. Appreciate the suggestion, but no. All right, who did that?
I did, not me.
I'm trying to keep the time.
Yeah, I understand.
You're undermining me. What you doing? No, I'm kidding. How might we make DT methods interesting for younger children? How might we be engaging for students of a given age group? Yeah, they're worded similarly, but they're dealing with different audiences. I would be apt to kind of keep both. So good that you pointed those out, but I think they could live in the same space. For those of you who are not working on CanWe's, there are 4 yellow cards that are very, 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 very similar. What I'd like you to do is to just put your mouse over one of them that seems to be the best of the 4. Right. I'm not going to eliminate the other 3. I just want to see kind of from a heat map perspective where people kind of see out of all these 4, which one seems to be on top, or at least the one that should be most emphasized. So we got a couple of arrows over here. Not so much on the other 2. Okay. Thank you for that. I think I'm going to keep this one as invest in DS as a skill, but I'm going to take out the one in the center over here because it's probably one and the same. They're all so close. This actually I'll keep too because it's talking about this one. Middle part talks about putting there on the curriculum, whereas you can better convey the importance, put it on the agenda. So yeah, I'm going to kind of keep all 3. I think they're so close. They could make an argument for that, but I'm going to just keep them just to see how the vote comes out with those. Right. So let's do a quick vote on both can we and how might we. Let's go ahead and wrap up the notes with whatever you're doing. Okay. So let's move this so that the gaps are kind of filled in. Go over here. This will be our last exercise before we break. We're going to do these separately. We're going to do the how might we's first. I'm going to give everyone, let's say, 3 votes for the top how might we's you want to vote for in this section. Again, don't vote for the can we's, just the how might we's. And we'll see how that kind of works itself out. Actually, I'll make it 4 votes. Let's have some fun. Let's get dangerous. So you have 4 votes. Vote on your top 4 how might we's that you'd like to carry forward into ideation, or that you'd like to consider when building out our narrative. You can vote for a card more than once if you like. It'll just come out on the votes. But if there's a tie, it tends to be discounted, as you've seen. So just how might we? Then we will do our group shot, and then we'll do the can we vote so that we don't delay people too long if they really have to go. Okay, we're almost done with votes. For reference, I don't vote on any of these. So if you're looking at the voting results like I am, pretty much I'll be at the top. Not doing anything. Okay, we just have Sari, it looks like. And those 3 votes that Sari is going to make on the How My Wees will determine everyone's fate. So no pressure. That 1 vote is going to tip the scales. There you go. Thank you for doing that. Let's see how everything kind of ended up. We had one that came out on top. How might we get design thinking on the agenda of teachers and school authorities? A secondary one with had some plurality of votes was how might we help school teachers build the design thinking muscle so they can feel confident to use it in their classes. So it looks like teachers and school authorities is where we're looking at the how might we's for these. I'll go ahead and put those and highlight those in tan. And we will take, so before we go to can we's for people that can stay after, the can we's will be a short vote as well, but let me explain really briefly what's going to come next. So between now and tomorrow, there's a section here for storytelling part 2, and I'll send an email out to explain how this works. But essentially, you're going to put your avatar over here on the left, and you're going to choose from the audience, the current state, pain point, and how might we and can we, the top voted ones. You're going to basically build a narrative for yourself. What exactly you want to put in these is up to you. If you notice that there are 10 cards that state top voted choices, but you can choose to go in a different direction. And then finally, you're going to put it all together into a narrative. You're going to tell a story about the audience that we're intending to serve, what they're currently experiencing, and the pain that's underneath it, and then ask them open-ended questions about where we can go with things. This statement is going to color what we do for the rest of the session, but it's basically going to be the narrative that we're going to color our solution sketches with, any prototypes that we do. It's going to basically be the theme that we're going to ride with for the rest of the dash. So you don't have to do this now. This is anytime between now and say when we start again tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning, my time, or at the beginning, whenever it is. In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll vote on the can we down here after we do our group shot, and then I'll explain in email also how that'll work, and I'll produce a video as well. So I'm going to quickly put my share off on my end and go back into a group shot. Now, the way this group shot is going to work, this is going to maybe catch you by surprise a little bit, is that there's a reason why I asked you to choose an avatar, because basically I want you to give your best impression of that avatar in the Zoom chat. So if you were a cat, you can basically do your best cat pose. If you were an observer saying that you were Stone Cold Steve Austin, I want you to try to imitate the best Stone Cold Steve Austin you can do. You can use props if you want to. I'll give you about 30 seconds to grab something that could basically be something that could basically reflect that. And then we can use that as basically a way of going about it. So you have to reflect, you have to look back on the avatar you chose. If you didn't choose one, you could just be yourself and give a thumbs up. But if you did choose one, like I did, I'm Hopper from Stranger Things. I have to figure out something I can basically put in there that would convince you to think that I'm Hopper beyond the stare away and the far away look. So I got to figure out something real fast. So I'm going to take 30 seconds to grab something from me too. So I can't find anything. All I could find was a basket full of Easter eggs. I don't have nothing. So that's about the equivalent of what I can do. So if you don't have anything or a prop of any kind, then you can just basically give a thumbs up or something like that. But I'm going to take a group shot of everyone on the video. I'll give everyone else a little bit of chance. Yep, so you can grab something there. Sari, what is that you have? Oh, you're on mute. Hang on.
Yeah, that's Ray's. That's Ray's
Okay.
thing.
It's a lightsaber. It's a lightsaber.
That's right. Yeah, I've my brain is puddled. Yeah,
okay,
it's a
so
lightsaber.
All right, got it. So I'm Hopper with a basket of eggs. There, well, there you go.
This is the end of a vacuum hose.
Okay, that works. Right. Okay. And Nikhil's just gonna look handsome in his thing. So, all right, you ready? We'll do a count. 1, 2, and get the eggs in here. 3. Little step. All right. Cool. So people who have to break right now, they can. I'm going to go into back to the share and do the can we. That'll be our final vote of the day. And then anyone who wants to do a little bit of overtime and to kind of discuss what's happened so far, you can do so. But you are more than welcome to exit out stage left if you need to go someplace. But I'll go back to what we were looking at before and finish it off with the can we vote. So the can we is pretty simple. There's very few cards there, even though there people wanted to do more. You're just going to vote on the top 2 can we's that are here out of all the things that are here. So I'll start a new voting session and see where this goes. So again, you're just voting on the can we section itself and the see 15 cards that are there. So 2 votes for everybody. Let's see where this kind of vets out. So you got 2 votes. Put them on any of the can we's. And let's see if there are particular ones that come out on top. Okay, we're just about done with voting. Nikhil, do you need more time to vote?
Sorry, 2 seconds.
Okay. Time's up. Sorry. Had to do it. Wow, that was fast. Holy cow. All right. You weren't kidding. That was super fast. Right. So we have 2. Can we state the problem we are solving? And can we make sure that this change is actually welcomed by educators, design thinking and education? And we have a secondary one says, can we ensure we solve the right educational problem? So there's a concern that we're actually addressing the right problem, what we're doing. So luckily, this next section is going to address that in terms of kind of centering in on the narrative. So part 2 is where we kind of take this fuzzy middle that we've been playing in, and we're going to narrow it down based on our own perspective and point of view. And again, I don't need to, I won't go into details for now because this is overtime is basically for discussion and kind of reflection on what's been happening. But I'll explain how to basically build that narrative in part 2 through email as well as through a video and kind of go through that, go down that road. So for overtime, you can stick around if you want. If you have other things you need to do, you can disconnect from the call or you can just hang out and just basically keep it on the background if you want to, totally up to you. But this is an opportunity for you to comment on what's been done so far, to clarify your understanding of what we've been doing so far with the process, maybe even give through your observations of what's happening, and then maybe ask questions about what we're going to do for part 2. But the floor is open with whatever you want to bring up. There is no procedure to raise hands or anything. It's just a matter of speaking what's on your mind, and we can kind of take it from there. For reference in the future, these post sessions on day 2 and day 3 will take on a different form. In day 2, they will be setting up for solution sketching and having smaller teams kind of get together to discuss what they'd like to do between then and Wednesday. And then on Wednesday is to set up either experiments for pretotyping or to set the stage for prototyping so that we can test our ideas with our intended audiences. So it isn't just going to be where everyone stares at a Zoom room. It's basically more along the lines of taking what was done in the session and then following through with something to get it done. So if there's no like
I have
initial
a question. So because we ended up having a tie on the can we's, do we not vote again?
No, because here I'll kind of get into it a bit with the storytelling part too. So the way the storytelling works is, let's say I'm just going to take one of the avatars that are on the far left. I'm going to take a cat, or actually, I'll take yours, Gia, and take Joy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put them in the avatar right here on the left. So I'm going to smack it right. So you got slot 1. So what you're going to do for this particular part is you're going to look at the top audiences and the rest of the secondary audiences, and you're going to choose one to put here. So your narrative is going to either start with school teachers or university students or design sprint practitioners. And that's going to basically go here. So let's just, for the sake of example, let's say school teachers is going to be the one that you choose for a top voted audience. Then you're going to go down to state, which is choose the top voted current state. And you're going to see you have these 5 to choose from. So with this, do we want to go with school authority or teachers have no idea DT? Let's just say you choose a secondary one and say teachers looking for alternative ways to interact with students while teaching online is this one. So you go this. This is the current state that they're dealing with. So now you have an audience and you have a current state, right? Then on your pain point down here, and I was just starting to build this out or bring it over. Let's bring the pane out from here. Let's surface it. Bring it over here. So on the pain side of things, you have 4 to choose from. We have parents, teachers, students, and it develops a mindset. So since I'm kind of in the teacher realm, I'm going to kind of stick with this and kind of go that route. Since I've chosen teachers as my audience, I'm going to kind of keep on going with that narrative and choose the pain point, right? So now we have 3 here. School teachers are currently what they're doing is they're looking for alternative ways to interact with students, but the teachers don't know another way to teach. Do not know another way to teach. There's no guidance to do design thinking. So then from there, as you're building this narrative, it's like which how might we tends to kind of fit into that. So when we did the how might we's, and this is not built out into something that's a reference list, we have a couple of that are. Let's go down here. We had 2 that were top of mind. How might we help school teachers build the DT muscle? And how might we get design thinking on the agenda of teachers and school authorities? So you have to basically decide between those 2 or some of the secondary ones, which fits the narrative that you want to kind of build a story against. So you choose one of these, and the same with the can we. You go back up to your point here, and you put in those 2. Yeah. And this is going to be your palette for creating a 1 paragraph statement to basically create a narrative that includes all of these elements. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
That's the narrowing part I was referring to before.
Okay.
And everyone will have a different take on it. But at the beginning of our second session, we're going to look at how everyone puts all of these together. And we're going to choose which one seems to make the most sense. From there, once we have a kind of a leader to go forward with, we're going to basically take all of the engagement parts of what we created the narrative, document them here, and start into ideation. start thinking of different ideas we can go with. From there, it goes into ideas and outcomes. So we pair the idea with a particular outcome we're thinking about with this, keeping in mind and anchoring ourselves to the original plot line that we've been thinking about. And then from there, we rank those ideas in terms of what our interest is for each, and this impact interest matrix that we've done with LDJs. And then go into the solution sketch arrangements in terms of who wants to kind of create some sort of solution sketch that corresponds to this idea outcome. That make sense?
Robert, one question. So if we choose audience, say as teachers, do we still have flexibility to choose other stakeholders for, say, current state pain point here as well, or just to keep the funnel open, or are we restricted like just to pick up points for teachers now because that's more logical, apples to apples, for a given row? Or are we okay to choose any point from any stakeholder across this storyboarding part too?
You can. The trick is that you're going to have to figure out how you can bring that all together into a narrative. So you can choose any of these, and they can be different audiences, different pain points, different states, but you're going to have to put that together in a 1-paragraph narrative that explains your point of view. And ultimately, the group is going to be looking at each of these particular examples as a way of saying, okay, what do we want to move forward with in terms of like a collective problem statement or a collective narrative that's going to shape the rest of the session. So you can choose to do any kind of like, you can choose to have an audience that's completely different from the pain point or the how might we, but again, it's going to be your challenge to kind of put it all together into a comprehensive statement. I find that it's a little bit easier to kind of make sure that you start with an audience and can keep it that narrative across all the different ones you choose. So if you decide to do parents, then parents is something that kind of pervades throughout your narrative here. If you decide to do secondary school students, but there really isn't something that for the rest of the session here that's top voted, doesn't fit the narrative, you'll have to go back and look at the collective if you want to go off the reservation and choose one of these ones in the current state and the pain points that would speak to secondary school students, and just look and see where those votes kind of vetted out in terms of like if you go up here to audience and state, where those votes were to give you a clue as to what could be appealing by the group. But essentially your put it all together statement, your narrative is what you're going to be pitching to the rest of the team around how you see this going forward. Collectively, what's the narrative that we're choosing?
Robert, I have a question. So, for example, if we take, for example, students for the storytelling part too, and then in this current state there is no students, is it possible to to just copy a part of their digital card, or we have to copy the whole card? So, for example, I choose students, and then in the current state, we have 5 digital cards and there is no students. And I think that it's very close that like there is this digital card saying teachers not sure they know about DS, right? A design sprint. So can I kind of use the part not sure they know about DS and attach it to students, or I have to copy the whole text of the digital card?
You could, I mean, at this point, this is an experimental process. So if you want to have that narrative, you can do that. There isn't a sort of implied penalty around doing like modified things on the fly based on your own perspective. So, I mean, why not? Let's give it a shot. I'm not holding process up on a pedestal. If it makes sense to you to kind of play within the boundaries of what's been written and reinterpret it based on what you want to do, then let's see what happens. Maybe something interesting comes out of that.
All right, noted. Okay. Robert, I have another question. Can you talk a little bit more about the whole storytelling approach? Why you decided to choose storytelling for this Dash template? Is it a common way to start, or because I don't really know that much about it, so I'm just wondering why storytelling.
Because this is going to be, all right, this is just my point of view, so I'm going to get a bit selfish. I think the problem framing, the way it's worded, is implying that there's a problem to frame. And sometimes I just think it's recognizing a state or a situation that may not be inherently problematic, but may be something that warrants discussion. So I got away from it being a problem in quotes, and I went more around how we see this space from the perspective of starting to tell a story, because that tends to be a little bit more engaging when we talk to others about what we're thinking, rather than assuming or implying that there's a problem to begin with, because it may not be a problem. It may be it may be more of a state than anything else. So I'd rather the narrative that we create make it apparent that it is either a problem or it is just contextually relevant to a situation, or it is what it is. But no matter what that state is or what that situation is, we can build upon it to create ideas. So to answer your question in a short form, it was about nomenclature and it was about language. It was about assuming that what we were talking about was a problem. It could be just a situation.
Okay, great, thank you.
Storytelling has the advantage that you're giving it context, and it kind of helps you focus exactly on where you are and what you want to give an answer to.
Yeah. And I'm doing this building approach because I thought it was the best way of encapsulating individualization while still keeping somewhat of a fence around our thinking and not being too wide or too broad. But this step 2 is really about narrowing down generally what people are thinking about in this broad category of design thinking and design sprints with teachers and educators and students, and how each of us see it. Narrowing it down so that when we go back to the narrative is our pitch to the rest of the group. It's like, we should move forward with this narrative to create a set of ideas that we could test with this audience to see if we can change that narrative around how they engage design thinking and design sprints. Even if it's organic and not just everyone stops and does something different. Because organic tends to be the way everything works. People don't change overnight. They're because of impressions or their environment, they tend to change slowly. So I kind of take that approach that this kind of change takes time, but what kind of narrative can we change around design thinking and design sprints that will influence people to move in a different direction? If I'm keeping with the theme of what we've unearthed so far.
Robert, I had the following question.
Yeah.
It's fairly general. It's about the role of the facilitator in general. Yeah. So is it the role of the facilitator to say when the pain points weren't apparently painful, or the audience was not, there was no focus there? Would it be the role of the facilitator to point that out and redo the exercise, or would you just accept it as it is?
For me, I would accept it as it is, because I think, based on my history, in my experience, my own experience, that when you try to reframe a given exercise when it doesn't quite hit, you have introduced the idea to the team that there is a right way of doing things and a wrong way of doing things for everything. So everyone is going to wonder if what they put in is supposed to be the right answer, in quotes, or it's just supposed to be an answer. Because then the responses tend to be very one-dimensional. So if the group didn't necessarily get to, say, like an acute pain, that's on me as a facilitator to better explain it the first time around. Will that change the outcome overall of the sprint? Perhaps. Or the dash or whatever process you have. But you can still kind of guide that narrative with future activities to encourage people to think deeper about the underlying problems or pain points, and kind of encourage that thinking as the activities progress. But I personally don't backtrack, because then I tend to think that I'm suggesting that this was the wrong way of doing it. You have to redo it and try it again. Then it no longer becomes open. It's more, you have to fit within this box. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Other facilitators will have a different point of view. I just tend to be that way.
In this case, I have a question. How do you engage people to think deeper, or encourage team members, participants of a sprint to think deeper if you feel that it's kind of not deep enough?
You can show examples in advance, so that speaks to preparation. If you want to create a narrative, you want to create an example that shows the depth of where you want to go with things. I used this in LGJs before, where the first couple of cards are examples of, say, domestic violence in during the pandemic. There was one where I created examples of the kind of the middle ground where you should be in terms of where you want to hit from a audience perspective, from the pain point perspective. And that gave a good barometer on where people should kind of focus their definitions. That tends to work really well. If you can have that as an example early on, people will interpret that and usually get somewhat close to the mark.
Robert, I have another question on facilitation. I really like the way you facilitate in a way that it's like this, the group silently keep working a lot and we move forward. So I see it very efficient. I found in sessions that I did in my work where I put together a cross-disciplinary team, and I try to do it similarly. And they feel like, wow, you have a group of experts and you don't allow them to talk. So like that, the feeling that they might want to engage in discussions and that they might feel that just by being silent and just contributing in this silent mode, so that we are not using all the potential from the people involved. I don't know, because I really know it works, right? So like we experienced it today, and like that when really you are silent and focused, it works. But I got also feedback from some participants who would like to use that everybody's together, so to talk more in the sessions.
That's why that's why I in advance, I told everyone that day 2 and day 3 tend to be the moments where you have discussion, where you can have, and these post sessions where you can get into more discussion. The danger I've seen in previous process exercises is that if you pause to get perspective, you're opening the door for different dimensions of the discussion to happen, which are all important, but they're situational or they're contextual to that state where you are in the process. For what I'm attempting to do with the dash, I know that the first part of it is very much note and vote, almost exclusively in the very beginning. But once you're past that and you start getting into solution sketching, prototyping or pretotyping, those processes need a lot of back and forth and discussion and perspective. So that's when people can reflect on what's been done and speak to it in explaining how they see the solution or how they see the way forward. So as long as I can say everyone is super smart and they're on this call, there's tons of experience and perspective, that will come to bear in day 2 and day 3, where we will need people like that to give an overarching perspective and their point of view on where things go. But day 1 is really about moving forward on the exercises.
Mm-hmm. So as I understand from you, it's first announce it. So why? So if you say like today it will be about that, so that people are prepared and they don't complain or show it at the end, or they are not disappointing, and then give also opportunities later on, right? So if it's a sprint or a 3 days dash, don't do the 3 days only note and vote, but just say, okay, when it's needed, then there's opportunity. Cool, thank you.
Correct. And it's just a matter of setting that up ahead of time.
Yeah.
So just explain when the engagement model the first day, usually with almost all these, is note and vote, considering data, taking breaks for mental and physical breaks, and then re-engaging. And the most you want to do that is 3 hours. I chose 2 today because it wasn't going to be a huge, because if we would have done 3 hours of this, after like hour 2, you start going, I'm going to vote on anything. And you just put your mouse on whatever that basically clicks. I find that 2 hours is a good kind of focus point, that at the end of that, you're like, okay, now I think I'm done, but then I can let my unconscious chew on what's been discussed. And then you can re-engage on day 2. We can finish out the rest of the note and vote and set the stage for discussion, speculation, exploration, ideation, and really start to have group conversations about where this can go.
Good. And I also think the exercise that you put of homework, I think that's good to do it offline, because sometimes we need to do it on the day, and sometimes you might have pressure on try to come up with the first perfect storytelling sentence, and some people might get stuck there. So the fact to stop and then you give the day to do it and come back with the exercise done was good.
Yeah, it speaks to personal preference. I know that the way my brain works, I like to at least put the starting point on something, and then like coats of paint on a wall that really need it. I tend to be somebody that I need multiple impressions to do so. So if I were doing this exercise, I would at least put my initial, like without filter, thoughts around everything I see here. And then sometime in the morning tomorrow or in the evening tonight, we'll go back and say, okay, let me reread this. And I would probably have a slightly different way of kind of going about it. And then that would be kind of my narrative I would choose. But everyone's different. Some people would want to get it done all in advance right now so that they can go, okay, all set. I can take 15 minutes before the session tomorrow and just kind of look it over to see if I make any last minute changes. Considering that Robert's going to talk like blah, 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 I have time to basically make that happen. So everyone will have their own kind of perspective or at least process for getting it done. And I just have to respect that. By the way, I do have a question for the group. How do you feel about this kind of bracketing of the main session with an optional pre-session and an optional post-session, so that this kind of conversation can happen about the work before and after, so that the focus during the session is about getting things done, and the pre and post is basically to, like we're doing right now, have conversations about the work so that we can share perspective and kind of clarify our understanding of things.
From my point of view, it makes perfect sense. In the 2 sprints I had so far, usually people wanted to have some more conversations, which should not necessarily be part of the process itself or slow it down. So it makes perfect sense, and it's highly appreciated to have this as a separate hour. And I think in addition, it also gives everybody's time planning a little buffer. So if we're running a bit over time, there is still this buffer that everybody can keep in mind. So I really like it.
Me too.
Okay.
Me too. The only thing, I missed the session on the pre, and I have like this, what is like this fear of missing out, the fact, okay, what did they do in the session before? Although I knew, like when I started, that we started directly with the canvas, etc. So I had the feeling, okay, nothing major. So I think as long as you say it's not like without attending to the sessions, it's okay. Like you can, then it's good. I like it. I like to be efficient in the 2 hours, as Marcus said, so that we have the feeling we progress and we are in the flow of working and not working and chatting and working back. So that's good. So yeah, I don't know, like if you could put, or what is the plan before and after? I'm not sure if there's a plan, Robert. Maybe just as we do now, like just discuss questions about previous exercise or next exercise.
So what I'm thinking about doing is that in the evening before my evening over here in the States, is that I could write an agenda up saying, okay, here's what to expect for both the pre-session, the session itself, and post-session, what I have on the agenda in terms of what we would be doing. Then making sure that the top and the bottom, the pre and the post, are not anything where if somebody misses those, they're going to feel like they have that FOMO effect of missing out. And are more along the lines of, okay, it's an optional, it's going to be recorded. You can watch it later on YouTube because right now we're still streaming, but you can basically rewatch what's been discussed and still catch up that way. But everything that's important is going to happen in those 2 hours that we have designated for the session.
Sounds great.
Yeah, Robert, I just want to chime in and say I really do appreciate the format this time around, both the pre and the post. I didn't attend the pre, but the fact that you set up a really good agenda to help us to understand what to expect, both before and after, it really helps to frame and allows us to focus in on these 2 hours where we can actually get a lot of productive work done. The other thing I might suggest is also for either the pre and the post is for people, if you have questions either about the session, even ahead of time that you think of maybe in the next 6 hours between now and the next session, if we can even just PM you and maybe you can answer those questions that may not necessarily be pertinent to the actual session itself, but more general broad questions that can be addressed in either the pre and the post, that'd be really good too.
Will, what would be a good way of documenting that? Would you want to have that in a separate Word doc? Would you want to encapsulate it in the mural? Do you think Zoom or Slack is a proper place for that? I mean, where would you envision that being the most effective?
Slack would be difficult just because it's really easy to get lost in the sea of threads.
That's true.
Mural, I mean, I suppose we could, but I can imagine that could get quite messy quick if we have questions all over the place on 5 different murals. I don't know, actually, it's a good question. Maybe we can open that up.
What about a Google Doc? Because you can do comments on the Google Docs.
Yeah, but where would you share it? Where would you post it?
What we can do is I can make that part of the post session of what we do here. So I could say like when I post the next day's kind of agenda, I can say, okay, for reference, here's the Q&A document. Go ahead and put those in. And between now and say the morning time during the pre-session, I can fill in the answers for those. And then that can be a reference point for, at any point during the session. But I could pledge to say, okay, if you post questions in here, I'll try to answer them during the pre-session, like during that first hour that we're getting together. I'll put all the answers in there so that sometime before we start on the day 2, the questions will be kind of answered in a way that makes sense. Like there's one question about Alberto Savoya's work. That could be a starting point for that document saying, I want to learn more about his work and what he does. Where could I go to find out more? In that Google Doc, I can basically put that in there. Then if you want an anchor rather than email to put that in, then I can put that into the day 1's area here and make that like an area for reference in terms of like that being something that can be used as like a resource section, but it would also be in the doc. So awesome. I can put it in both.
And
I suppose you'd have
on each board, and the link will lead to this Q&A document.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Gregory?
Yeah, each board for each day will have a link connecting a board with a Q&A document, either board or the document that you have mentioned.
Yeah, it'll be similar to what you saw on the mural boards with the LinkedIn profiles, where if everyone had a picture, that would be similar. So yeah, it would just basically the resource documents would be over here on the left side, and then that would be duplicated in day 2 when the day 2 template comes out, so that you would still have that reference if you need it.
And Robert, is it possible, I'm assuming that you'd be answering these questions in either the pre and the post sessions, would it be possible to tag on the YouTube video itself when exactly in the video you start answering the questions? That way we can quickly reference it at that point in time in the video.
If I have time.
Or have I just created a lot of work?
I'd
I'm
be more than
assuming you have
happy to.
unlimited time, Robert. Come on.
I'd be more than happy to do it, but yeah, it just depends on if I have time.
I thought you'd already given up on sleep, Robert.
Well, I'm on 8. It's 2.5 hours now, so I'm still cognitively functional. I still have to speak slowly at times. And I only have a couple other appointments, and I do have to make sure that my son does his schoolwork. But beyond all of those things, I should be able to find a catnap in there somewhere.
Robert, I have a question regarding the exercise. I just did mine, and I would like to get feedback. I have the feeling maybe it's too long, so I'm Disneyland, the second row. Yeah, I was not sure like how long it should be, like just from a phrase perspective on a storytelling. If I could get your feedback so that I'm able to improve it. So not that much on the content assessment, but on how it is framed.
Sure, I can take a look at it right now if you'd like.
Yeah.
So your audience is school teachers. Your current state is teachers have no idea of design thinking. They might look at it online to get a clue. The pain point is that they don't have any other way to teach. There's no guidance to do design thinking per se. So how might we help school teachers build the design thinking muscle so they can feel confident? And can we make sure that this change is actually welcomed by educators? And can we state the problem we're solving? So your narrative is design thinking and design sprints are not usually taught in schools. Teachers do not have the necessary knowledge, guidance, nor practical experience to teach it in a confident way. If we would be able to help teachers build their design thinking muscle, they would feel confident to incorporate it in their classes. Before I go ahead and teach them these new techniques, it's important we understand the actual problem teachers are facing. So we use design thinking and design sprints to solve those problems. This way we'll have a higher acceptance and chances of success towards this change in their ways of, okay. Yes, that'll work. The way you framed it is perfect. The only thing that you want to avoid, and it kind of hinted at this a little bit, was that you want to avoid jumping ahead to solutions in your statement. So in here you say it's important we understand the actual problem teachers are facing. That's all good. The only thing that you don't want to do is try to infuse a solution within there. Yeah. But I think it's just that this speaks to it perfectly. I think it does really well. It also makes me think that how much room do I need to give to this? Because that I don't give you some things. So I can narrow it down so that it's this small and you can always like kind of get into it. But I think I may have to do that with some of these so that people have enough kind of room to kind of put what they're thinking.
Maybe I'm the only one that is writing that much. I was not sure, like, how much narrative I should. So when you say not solution in it, so when I write, so we use design thinking and design sprints to solve those problems. Maybe that's already a solution I have in mind to increase the acceptance. So maybe that I should delete it. So because
I don't think you should modify it any more than you've done now. I think this is perfect because let's say hypothetically this is chosen, this is going to basically kind of guide the thinking around the ideation part of things. Plus, we're also going to be including your entire narrative in this, if we choose yours, up in this step 3. So that when we go into ideation, we're going to have context to the narrative that you've written, and that'll help us produce different ideas to address the narrative that you're doing. So I would not change this. I think the way you've written it is totally fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Guys, I'm going to have to leave now. So thank you so much for the session. Looking forward to meeting you all again tomorrow.
Okay, bye, Gia. Thanks for coming by.
Bye, Gia.
Bye, Gia.
Bye.
Bye.
I have to jump off too. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
See you, Will.
Tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Robert, can you clarify a little bit more what you meant by commenting not to include the solution into the write-up?
So part of the reason why we do how might we and can we at the end is to make sure we anchor our thinking around where the possibilities may go, but not necessarily jump to conclusions from from the narrative we're doing. So an example, if we look at what Laura did here, or should I say Disneyland? Is that Disneyland? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So Disneyland, in terms of what they were thinking, let's take the second paragraph here. It says, before we go ahead and teach them these new techniques, it's important we understand the actual problem teachers are facing. So we use DT to solve those problems. If she would have said at the end, it's like, we should probably consider doing this as a way of making this happen. And if we do, or doing this solution to basically address this problem, then she's made the leap of faith to say, okay, I probably have a leaning towards this type of solution and going in that direction. That's probably where the ideation is not going to work, because you've already pre-built the thinking around what the proper way or the right way is. If you keep it open-ended like Laura's done, then the narrative influences the ideation, but that doesn't necessarily prescribe which direction you should go in.
Okay. Okay, more or less understood. Thank you.
Yeah. So maybe a solution would be, we should do workshops with teachers, understand their needs, and then based on so if like more concrete on what could we do to understand their problems, then this might be already a solution in the sentence.
Yeah. And I know people are leaving. That's fine. You can sign up and chat if you need to while we're still talking. You don't have to wait for a pause. So if you need to leave, just say your goodbyes and chat, and that'll work too. I have something at 10 o'clock that I'm gonna break off at around 5 minutes to the top of the hour. So I have about 5 minutes left in case there's any other questions.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Yes, have a nice day, and see you tomorrow. And
see you tomorrow.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Bye, everyone.
Pauline is the only one left.
Oh, sorry, Robert. Yeah. Well, I have too many questions, but technically,
well, ask them. Go ahead. I mean, you've got a captive audience of one now, so. Ask me while I can go right to the top of the hour if you want.
Where can I find more information about Dash as a methodology?
So Dash is brand new. You're experiencing it. There is no documentation anywhere. This is just my creation. So this takes from the past 6 to 9 months of me being exposed to pretotyping, design thinking, lightning decision jams, perspective of how other people have done it in the Global Virtual Design Sprint. You're just looking at the latest and greatest technique of trying to take a narrative to take the perspectives of a lot of people around the world on a problem, and then reframing that in an engagement model on the solution side that is either practical or speculative, depending on the nature of the team.
Okay. Thank you, because I was trying to find information about it and I couldn't, so I got very confused because I just couldn't understand what is happening. Yeah, but thank you. Right now I understood, because yeah, it makes it way more clear now. Okay, that's it. I will just go through the experience and enjoy it.
Now,
yeah.
I'll tell you this. So I welcome critical feedback, so constructive feedback. So if this has parallels with something that exists, or if you know of a different way or potentially a better way of kind of going about any of these things, that from your perspective, I welcome that. So I'm not so egotistical to the point where I'm like, this is the best thing ever, because it's like, this is just my first pitch at taking some of the themes and the thoughts I had around this and making something constructive, at least talking about this in what the outcome is. I'm hoping for a particular outcome, but I want to see how this works with everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well noted. I don't think I can provide too much critical feedback because I'm just quite a newbie in the whole industry in the whole thing. But I'll just try to provide some feedback if I can.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that you're new to this, it's perfect, because you're not going to understand like everything, and I'm not expecting you to either. This is kind of like working through the motions and getting familiar with it. Either it interests you at like 3 months from now, it'll stick, or it might not. But the important thing is just to try. And then you can have that perspective of saying, okay, well, now I know what this is. I've seen it, or I've experienced it, and I have this point of view on it where it makes sense to kind of deploy it or engage it. And mean, that's the most I can hope for.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I will keep an open mind and just go through it, because I don't really have any opinion yet. I just got very confused in the very beginning, but apart from that, the experience is so far enjoyable.
Yeah, I can understand that. I do have one question though. Maybe this is a good thing to ask
Sure.
you. Just on a fly, I put the audience, state, pane, how might we, I put them all on the left and I made them vertical justified. And I'm wondering to myself if they're better suited if they were horizontally justified, so that like I'm doing with the rest of these exercises, there's a narrative at the top for like a palette to choose from, so that people don't have to kind of find their way on the left for what they're using and then go back to their particular path and put in the details. I probably will do it horizontal, but I'm wondering if you had an initial preference either way.
I don't think I have. On the one hand, when I saw it, like I see how it is aligned originally, I think it's good because I can kind of see everything. But then I understand that if I start doing the exercise, I will definitely zoom in, and then it will be quite a pain to start looking for the things
on the left,
because
yeah.
I'll have to scroll up and down and then find my own. Yeah, it might be quite a pain, but at the same time I don't really kind of how to organize it more efficiently. What I did, for example, kind of what I did during the past 2 sprints, I did one vertical line in the end and one vertical line in the top. You see what I mean? So that you have, I had like people who are in the very, very bottom, they don't have to scroll up all the time and then go down, because it will be a bit easier for them to get it from.
Something that breaks in between the two.
Or something that breaks in between the two, so that like there is an equal distance for people. That's probably what I was thinking about.
I think what I'll have to do is there's somebody that's typing right now, but when they get done kind of putting in their perspective, I think that's, if I remember the snake, that's Gregory. He's finishing up what he's doing. I'll recast this for a horizontal play, since that seems to be the theme. And then I'll include like in the breakpoint after 6, I'll insert those same reference points there, so that you can scroll up and down and still find it.
So that it's like convenient for people from kind of more or less any point. It will be from the same distance.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's just a matter of reframing it. So I think you're correct. I'll keep what's there, and then I'll just basically copy it and put it in a new space. Okay.
Yeah, something like this. All right, I won't hold you for any longer. I will think about and prepare questions for tomorrow as well. Oh, Robert, one more thing. I think I'll join tomorrow's session half an hour later. It's like 8. Half an hour later.
Okay, that's totally fine. I suspect that given the speed of the team, we'll probably get, if I would hope that we get to, by the time we hit to the top of the first hour, we'll have gotten through the ranking of what we think the idea should be. And then we'll get a bit into solution sketching in the second part and kind of showing how that's done, so that we can do it live. And then we can spend the time to create those on our own time, or potentially like, refine them a bit, so that we spend day 3 reviewing them and thinking of how we want to kind of create either a prototype or a pretotype against that.
Okay, sounds good. I think I will jump somewhere in the middle on the call. Thank you very much for your time, and see you tomorrow.
Okay, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. And for those of you watching out on YouTube, that's all we got. So thanks for watching. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow. If tomorrow's that way, maybe tomorrow's this way. Maybe it's up. Who knows? See you later.